Right now on Morning News Now, President Trump addressing affordability in America at a campaign-style rally in battleground Pennsylvania, where he unveiled a new slogan touting his economic policies.
We're getting lower prices, bigger paychecks. We're getting inflation. We're crushing it.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, top lawmakers get a closed-door briefing on those controversial strikes on alleged drug boats. We'll take you to Washington. Also this morning, a tale of two storms as the Pacific Northwest braces for another day of heavy rain and flash flooding, and the East Coast thaws from an Arctic blast. We're tracking the conditions and what to expect where you live. Plus, new this morning, controversy and uncertainty in Oslo, where Nobel laureate Maria Corina Machado was set to accept the Peace Prize as officials announced the Venezuelan opposition leader will no longer attend the ceremony. The new questions about her whereabouts. And no snooze, you lose. You heard that right. New research shows you probably aren't sleeping enough or getting enough exercise either. But should we hit snooze or get up early to work out? We'll get a doctor's opinion. Good morning. I'm Emily Ikeda in for Joe and Savannah. We begin this morning with President Trump testing out a new economic message in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. At a campaign-style rally in the northeastern part of the state last night, the president largely dismissed concerns about affordability. He blamed Democrats for focusing on the issue and insisted that his policies have already triggered, quote, lower prices and bigger paychecks.
You know, they always have a hoax. The new word is affordability. The Democrats go out, prices are too high. Yeah, they're too high because they caused them to be too high. But now they're coming down. One of the most important ways we're defeating inflation is by unleashing American energy, including oil, gas, and clean, beautiful coal right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
All right, NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins me now with more on this. All right, Meg, good morning to you. This was the president's first domestic event addressing voters since July. He seemed to go back and forth on whether or not affordability is really an issue. This was, remember, the #1 concern for people who voted for him in 2024. So is the president losing his support when it comes to the economy?
Hey, Emily, good morning. Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on who you ask, but an NBC News poll from October had found that about 2/3 of voters thought that the Trump administration had fallen short on issues like addressing inflation and the cost of living. Now, as you mentioned, the economy is consistently a top issue for voters. So our colleague Garrett Haake was on the ground in the town where President Trump was speaking last night, and he spoke to voters to hear what they had to say about how the president is talking about the economy. Take a listen to what they had to say.
Described the economy. He said it was an A+ economy. What do you make of that?
Well, I think if you have the kind of money that he has in his life, he probably thinks it is. I think for those who are really in need, it certainly is not.
If the election were tomorrow, would you vote for him again?
No.
Because of his affordability?
Right. Yeah.
You could tell him about this. What would you tell him?
I wouldn't talk to him.
Do you think he's paying enough attention to the economy?
Honestly, I would say no. I think he's stretched himself out a little bit.
He's a little too thin?
Yeah, he's into everything.
Now, Emily, those last two voters that you heard from had told NBC News that they had voted for President Trump. Now, remember, this is also in Pennsylvania, which is consistently a vital swing state and oftentimes a bellwether for determining in which direction toward which party the country is moving in for the next elections.
Yeah, absolutely. Always interesting to get insight from the Keystone State. Megan, I also want to ask you about another issue impacting people's wallets, student loan debt. Yesterday, the Trump administration announced a deal to end President Biden's student loan repayment program. What does this mean for borrowers? Could this leave millions of people scrambling?
Yeah, so this is called the SAVE plan, and it had actually been at the center of a legal battle. So earlier this year, a judge had sided with a group of Republican-led states that had sued the education department during the Biden administration over this plan. So a judge is going to have to ultimately approve this settlement. But the Education Department said that in the coming weeks, it would reach out to borrowers who are on that plan to let them know how they can go about repaying those loans here. So also notably, as you mentioned, there are a whole lot of people who could potentially be impacted by this. The Education Department said that there are 7 million people who are on this plan. And as part of these settlement terms, if they're ultimately approved by the judge, the Education Department won't be allowed to enroll new borrowers in the program. They're going to have to deny pending applications, and they're going to have to move people who are on this program onto another repayment program.
Well, certainly a lot of eyes will be following that one. Meg, before I let you go, I want to talk about a new tourism proposal. The Trump administration says they plan to require all foreign tourists to provide their social media histories when trying to enter the country. How unprecedented is this? And are there any concerns when it comes to privacy, free speech?
Yeah, so it's a pretty unusual move, but it also is in line with other moves that the administration has made in recent months targeting social media. So, for example, back in June, the State Department had said that it would require people who are applying for certain types of visas to make their social media public. Now, that move had generated a whole lot of controversy. I want to read you a little bit about what an advocacy group had to say about that at the time. It's called the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and they called it, quote, a dangerous push to surveil and suppress foreign students' social media activity. So what happens next in this case is that there's going to be a 60-day public comment period where people can weigh in on this proposal. Something I also wanted to note is that this could potentially have a big impact next year as well. That's because the U.S. is going to be hosting FIFA World Cup events, and that's when there are going to be a whole lot of international tourists coming here.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point there. Megan Leibowitz, thanks so much. On Capitol Hill, questions continue to swirl around the legality of the Trump administration's strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean. Navy Admiral Alvin Halsey, who oversees these strikes, virtually briefed top lawmakers yesterday on the House and Senate Armed Services Committees. Halsey is set to retire from his post this Friday after just 1 year on the job. The announcement that he would be leaving his post shocked Washington in mid-October, citing 2 anonymous officials. The Wall Street Journal last week reported that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth pushed Halsey to step down after he expressed concerns on the legality of these strikes in the Caribbean. The Pentagon, we should note, has not commented. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now from Washington. Good morning to you, Julie. This briefing was not open to the public, but what are you hearing from lawmakers who were there in attendance?
Yeah, this was a remote classified briefing that was held between Admiral Halsey, who, as you mentioned, oversaw these strikes, but also was the top commander overseeing all of U.S. operations in Latin America, a significant role that this admiral has held as part of his 37-year career in the military. He briefed the top lawmakers on the House and Senate Armed Services Committee, and you can imagine they had a lot of questions for him after they were briefed as part of a larger group by Admiral Bradley last week on these strikes. These lawmakers, they really do provide the most oversight of the Pentagon, of the Defense Department. They wanted to see this video of these strikes that we've been talking about that have since become so controversial, those September strikes, in which about 45 minutes elapsed between the first and second and later third and fourth strikes that ended up killing the 2 survivors of that alleged drug boat. We had some reporting over the weekend exclusively at NBC News, myself and my colleague Courtney Cuby, talking about the operations, the behind the scenes. Remember, these lawmakers only saw this video in a classified setting. They want it out to the public, and we've even heard from Republicans demanding that it all come out.
Julie, we know you'll continue to follow that one. This was not the only key closed-door briefing on Capitol Hill yesterday. The congressional gang of 8, if you will, was briefed by President Trump's top national security officials, including Defense Secretary Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So what were some of the focal points of that meeting, and what did lawmakers take away from it, do you think?
Yeah, and also the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, joining them in that briefing. The Gang of 8 is basically the most important lawmakers on Capitol Hill. It's the leaders in both parties in the House and the Senate. It is also the top lawmakers. You see them there on the intelligence panels in the House and Senate. And look, in talking to my sources, there really wasn't anything new that they gained from this briefing. This wasn't only concerning those strikes in the Caribbean, but it was also about Ukraine and Russia, some other matters that are going on around the world. And again, lawmakers in that briefing, I'm told, pressed these top officials to release the video of the strikes. Remember, President Trump last week said that video should be released and appearing to walk it back. Apparently, in this closed-door briefing, Hegseth, the defense secretary, told these lawmakers that he will look at releasing this video. I want you to take a listen, though, to what we heard from the top Democrat leader, Chuck Schumer. Take a listen.
It was a very unsatisfying briefing. I asked Secretary Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, would he let every member of Congress see the unedited videos of the September 2nd strike? His answer, we have to study it. Well, in my view, they've studied it long enough. Congress ought to be able to see it.
Now, look, this is a classified briefing, so most of the time we only know the information when lawmakers who are in attendance decide to share it. This time they were unusually tight-lipped, but we did hear from Democrats who, for their part, said that they were not satisfied with this briefing. Even Senator Warner, who spoke to reporters afterwards, saying there really wasn't anything new that they learned. And again, more questions than answers at this point. What happens next when it comes to these strikes? Some lawmakers, Emily, are calling for open hearings, but it's unclear whether that's going to happen.
Well, we'll see what plays out today. Julie Sturkin, thanks so much. On the economic front, the Federal Reserve is expected to make its third straight interest rate cut today as it wraps up its final meeting of the year. Some experts say it could be the last rate cut for a while because the central bank doesn't want to aggravate inflation. The central bank is also expected to post its final projections report that will give some insight into its economic forecast for next year. Meanwhile, higher prices from inflation are forcing some consumers to choose between buying clothes or buying groceries this holiday season. They're also driving more high-income shoppers to discount retailers like Walmart. And a U.S. Army-based gynecologist was criminally charged yesterday following allegations that he secretly videotaped dozens of female patients during their exams. The Army's Office of Special Trial Counsel said Dr. Blaine McGraw, who practiced at Fort Hood in Texas, was charged with multiple offenses. They include indecent visual recording, conduct unbecoming of an officer, and willful disobedience of a superior officer. The misconduct is alleged to have happened between January and December of this year and involved at least 44 victims. McGraw's attorney said he would continue to cooperate with law enforcement and denied that any non-medical touching occurred. The investigation, we should note, is ongoing. And here in New York, we're getting a new look at the moment police first came face-to-face with Luigi Mangione. Body camera footage of Mangione's arrest 1 year ago this week, now prompting response from Mangione's lawyers, who are angry it was released. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has that video and more.
The moment Luigi Mangione is first confronted by police in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. This body cam video released publicly for the first time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The restaurant's manager, the one who called 911.
What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Rosario. Rosario? Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, I'm sorry. Is your ID on you? Yes, sir. Thanks.
Mangione then calmly pulls out his wallet and hands the officer a fake New Jersey driver's license.
I thought she looked like someone,
One of the responding officers calling in the license numbers and learning it's a fake.
46, 27, 49.
Prosecutors say Mangione had been on the run for nearly 5 days after allegedly murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He's pleaded not guilty to both state and federal murder charges. During a pretrial hearing this week, the court released new photos of items police say they found in Mangione's backpack, including the alleged murder weapon along with the silencer, and a handwritten escape plan, according to the prosecution, with messages to pluck eyebrows, change hat, and keep momentum. FBI slower overnight.
The evidence that they've amassed so far shows that this is an individual who spent a great deal of time plotting out not only a criminal act, but the escape as well.
But images released by the NYPD in the days following the murder may have been what gave him away.
I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looked like the CEO shooter from New York.
The officer who first spoke to him testified that as soon as Mangione pulled down that mask, He knew it was the suspect the NYPD was looking for.
The defense team has filed a letter of protest over this body cam footage being released. They say that there is, in their words, a, quote, substantial probability that Mangione's right to a fair trial could be jeopardized. Their concern is that a future juror may see this video and be prejudiced against their client. Back to you.
Thanks, Steph. Okay, so for more on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas. You hear the concerns about this body camera footage. Is there any credence to this? Could we see these concerns from Luigi Mangione's defense go anywhere?
What is the point of moving to suppress evidence that was unlawfully obtained if everybody in the jury pool has already seen it by the time you're picking a jury? That's why lawyers move to suppress evidence that was obtained in violation of the Constitution, because that's our remedy for it. We call it fruit of the poisonous tree. If the police break the law or violate the Constitution, the remedy that we've developed in this country is to exclude the evidence. The jury doesn't get to see it. Does that mean that some guilty people go free? Yes, but that's the compromise we've struck over 200 years. So that is why the defense attorneys are very angry. Is it incriminating evidence? Yes. All suppressed evidence is incriminating evidence by definition, but the defense has every reason to be upset.
So let's talk about some of the other evidence that has raised concern since police didn't have a search warrant to obtain or go through his bag. In the body camera video, we saw Mangione hand police a fake ID, which they say means he committed a crime. So a search warrant was not needed, according to them. What are your biggest takeaways from these clips?
They're right in the sense that the moment Mangione handed over that fake ID, he was committing a crime under Pennsylvania law. It's forgery, and it's actually a felony offense. But everything up until that moment is certainly subject to scrutiny because this is a classic textbook example of a police-citizen encounter. And in fact, most people's encounters with the police involve motor vehicles when they're stopped at the side of the road. Different constitutional analysis there. You are required to speak to police and hand over your ID when you're stopped in a motor vehicle. Not necessarily so on the street like this. Arguably, Mangione could have stood up and walked right away from police when they came up and approached him. And that would have forced the issue. Are they going to conduct what's called a Terry stop? Do they have enough suspicion to at least pat him down? That would have been a very interesting outcome. But what Mangione did was something that citizens should never do, which is he not only lied to the police, which gives them even more suspicion, he handed them a forged or allegedly forged document. I think we can say it was probably forged because that was not him. And it looks like his picture on that New Jersey ID.
So another thing that Mangione's defense team did, they filed something called a letter of protest with the court over the body camera video. So what does that mean? Could this carry any impact?
It might. And again, I understand the sentiment and I agree with them. Why release all of this evidence that you're looking to get suppressed? Now, let's say the defense loses this suppression motion. And I have news for you. I know you know this. Most suppression motions fail. I've probably filed 100. I've maybe had 5 or 6 granted. That's how rare it is. And every criminal defense attorney will tell you the same thing. But once that evidence is admitted and we know it's coming in at trial, that's a different analysis. But if this is evidence that might be suppressed and never see the light of day, is it appropriate to release it to a potential jury pool who may already be aware of it by the time they're picked for the jury? And they're going to be sitting there during the trial. Hey, what happened to that firearm that was found in the backpack? I watched that wall to wall. I'm looking for that. And it's already in my mind as I sit on this jury.
And we know so many people have been following this story. Dana Savalas, thank you so much for your time. Now to those powerful storms that are sweeping across the country. Blizzard warnings are in effect for the Central Appalachians as forecasters say parts of the region could see up to 8 inches of snow and wind gusts around 50 miles an hour. And in the plains, states are seeing colder than average temperatures, which is causing dangerous conditions for drivers and a buildup of black ice on highways. Further west, major flooding causing several swift water rescues. You can see some of those on your screen, knocking down power lines, even triggering mudslides. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has the story.
In Washington state, homes underwater and roads submerged as an atmospheric river rips through the northwest with up to 15 inches of rain in the forecast. The famed Snoqualmie Falls raging at its highest point in a decade, leaving much of the state on flood watch and triggering mudslides and forcing water rescues. First responders deploying drones to help guide people to safety. In Lewis County, a hellish commute as firefighters rescue drivers from fast rising waters. While out east, firefighters battled the freeze, extinguishing a blaze at this apartment complex that killed one.
The water, you shut anything off for a minute and everything freezes up. The hose lines freeze up, hydrant freezes up.
All part of the Arctic blast tightening its grip on millions, with temps plunging 10 to 20 degrees below normal and snow from the Midwest to the mid-Atlantic as freezing rain and ice turn the nation's highways treacherous. In Virginia, a harrowing rescue after a Tesla slid off the interstate last Friday. New video shows a state trooper rushing toward the burning vehicle, the driver trapped inside. Meanwhile, in Poughkeepsie, New York, the Meals on Wheels may be hot. But for volunteer Pat Miller, this is also about checking in on the folks in the freezing cold.
And these temps, they're dangerous.
Absolutely. They're dangerous for me. So for them, you know, they're not supposed to be getting out and about.
And winter's over a week away. Are you ready for it?
As ready as I'm going to be.
McLaughlin, thanks so much for that. Let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lastman for even more on what's ahead in the forecast. Winter still somehow over a week away still?
Yep, but we sure are feeling like it, Emily. No matter really where you look across the country, we've got winter alerts, we've got cold air, and of course we've got that atmospheric river event that's happening out west that Aaron just mentioned. But let's start with the winter alerts because they're topping 18 million people, and we do have some blizzard conditions happening across parts of the Appalachians. Notice most of this to the south of basically that border of Michigan and Ohio is rain. But north of that, we are seeing that kind of band of snow that's working into parts of the interior northeast. So this is going to create, of course, those slick conditions for folks on the roadways this morning. That system is going to work farther to the east as the day goes on. And you can see kind of like along the I-95 corridor, it'll be cold rain. Anywhere north and west of that, again, for the interior areas of the northeast and stretching back to the Appalachians, it's going to be some additional snow. We'll see some additional snow downwind of the lakes, of course, across the Great Lakes as well. And then we gear up for this next kind of look at this batch of snow that'll work through here and slide through the Midwest as we get through the later parts of your Thursday, while we keep some of the snow going downwind of the lakes as well. Now, between now and then, we'll see some significant snowfall. Again, you guessed it, the highest amounts are going to be downwind of the lakes. We could see over a foot in places like Hamburg, Watertown, 4 to 8 inches. I think places like Chicago, Detroit, you'll be on the lower end, 1 to maybe 1 to 3 inches. And then Elkins, notice up to 7 inches will be possible. Now, we've also got wind alerts that are in effect. 21 million people across parts of the plains and the Rockies with gusts 40, even above 50 miles per hour. So again, just a heads up, we'll keep those kind of gusty conditions through at least the middle of our work week. Big picture look at temperatures. Honestly, the West looks a lot better. We've got temperatures above normal, 10, 15. Look at Denver right now, 58 degrees. We're running nearly 15 degrees above normal for that region. A little bit of a different story across the east as we get through tomorrow. We'll keep the warmth across the Rockies and the plains, but we're way below normal for the Great Lakes in the Northeast. 28 degrees is all you get in Pittsburgh on Thursday. And then into next week, here comes the cold. So notice Minneapolis, 17 on Friday, 1 for the actual temperature on Saturday. And then we really start to see the bottom dropping out with these temperatures as we get into next week. And you can see we kind of rebound, though, as we get into the middle of next week. So we've got single digits. Again, Minneapolis is a perfect place to look. Single digits for the weekend, but then back to those mid-20s by the time Tuesday and Wednesday rolls around, Emily. It's a fluctuation of that Arctic air kind of sliding in, but layers are going to be needed for the long haul.
Yeah. I mean, a tale of two storms, like it's a split screen down the country there.
It really is.
Angie, thanks so much.
You got it.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, children at risk. New numbers show an alarming decline in pediatric units at hospitals, but doctors want you to know. But up first, developing news, controversy and confusion at the Nobel Prize ceremony in Oslo, where officials say the Peace Prize laureate is no longer attending. We'll take you to the event for the very latest. Stay with us. Welcome back. This morning, the daughter of Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado is accepting the Nobel Peace Prize on her mother's behalf at a ceremony in the Norwegian capital of Oslo. The Nobel Institute said Machado would not be attending the ceremony, but that she would come to Oslo later. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now with more on this. Hey there, Molly. Let's start with the ceremony itself. Walk us through what's happening and what we've heard so far.
Yeah, Emily, it's still ongoing. It's just 26 minutes in. It started at the top of the hour. And this is always a really hopeful, really beautiful ceremony every single year. Now, the Nobel chair is still in his introduction. You see him on screen right there talking about democracy. And he opened about horrific stories, horrific testimonies of children under the Maduro regime. He specifically called his attention to children who were abducted following Maduro's election. And he detailed the torture that they survived. Now, he also said that authoritarianism is on the rise, Emily, and he had a really full-throated, kind of full-throttle, excuse me, if we're trying to listen to him, let's take a listen to what he's saying right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, as citizens of a democracy, we have a duty to be critical of information sources. Alarm bells should ring when the views we express are identical to those disseminated by one of the world's most manipulative disinformation systems. For in that case, we are not just spreading information, we are spreading the strategic propaganda of a dictator. What are we all to think when we read that is the Venezuelan opposition that is threatening the country with war? That the democratic movement desire an invasion, when the narrative is turned upside down and when the victims are branded as aggressors. This is a version of reality that the Maduro regime tells the world, that it is the guarantor of peace. But peace based on fear.
And you hear the chair, Emily, talking right there. He gave a really full-throated, full-throttle defense of democracy. I'm not sure how much you heard of me talking right before he took over, before we played this soundbite. The ceremony is going on live, but he opened with testimonies about Venezuelan political prisoners. He talked specifically about children who had been abducted during the Maduro regime, really walked through kind of some horrific testimonies. And then he also had a really kind of big welcome to some key Venezuelans who are actually present. As you mentioned, the winner is not actually present at the ceremony, but one of the main guest there is Edmundo Gonzalez, who is the president-elect in that last election that, of course, Nicolas Maduro and his regime took over and, according to international election monitors, stole from him.
Molly, to your point about her whereabouts right now, the director of the institute had earlier said that Machado's whereabouts were unknown, though now they say she's safe. So do we know why she wasn't officially able to attend the ceremony in Norway?
We don't know where she is right now. So you just heard from the chair just about 15 minutes ago that she will be in Oslo. She is not currently at the ceremony, but we don't know exactly where. We also don't know necessarily exactly what the timing is and if she's able to kind of arrive in Oslo later today. We do know, though, she released an audio recording, a phone conversation between her and the Nobel chair, Emily, earlier today, where she explained that so many people risked their lives to get her out of Venezuela, to make it possible for her to travel. And she said it's been a really hard journey, but she will be in Oslo. So as of right now, we know that her daughter, Anna Karina, is there. She will be accepting the award officially on her behalf. We do not know, though, where she is at this very moment.
And you see on your screen some of her supporters. Last night, though, we also saw protests in Oslo against Machado's win. So what's driving some of the tension? Does this have to do with her support of the Trump administration's military actions in Venezuela and the Caribbean?
There is a lot of controversy surrounding her win, and there was a lot of controversy when the win was actually announced back in October. But the chair of the committee actually has kind of reserved a lot of his intro. It's now 30 minutes in this morning, talking about how you cannot judge Democratic activists who are in an authoritarian regime, who operate under a dictatorship, because they are not dealing in ideal environments. They are not going to be necessarily making the choices or have the choices that you would like them to make. Some of the controversy and some of the criticism of her win, Emily, as you say, absolutely deals with her support of President Trump's military action against Venezuela boats, the military buildup in the Caribbean, but as well as her support for Netanyahu, Israeli prime minister, and his military action in Gaza. The crux of the controversy has really been spearheaded and summed up by the Norwegian Peace Council. It's a group of 17 organizations. and they put out a statement. They said her views do not align with the core values of the council, despite her relentless work as an opposition leader. I think it's really complicated, and I think this is what the chair is addressing right now to try to get people to understand just how hard it is, of course, to be an opposition leader, to be an activist for democracy. And he really kind of carries the argument fully through and says that in the end, though, a democracy and a democratic country does lead to peace, and that is in line with the Nobel's core values.
Okay, Molly Hunter covering all sides of this for us. Thank you so much. Let's stay overseas and look at sweeping new changes to what kids in Australia can look at online. As of Wednesday, millions of kids under 16 are now blocked from accessing social media in the first such ban in the world. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has more on the controversial move.
First, we have the special chicken noodles.
For 15-year-old Demi, social media is more than just a hobby or a place for mindless scrolling.
I upload my daily routines on social media so that many viewers on Instagram, TikTok can see what I do.
Demi owns a food stall at a market in Sydney, Australia, where he posts videos online showing off his cooking skills and signature chicken noodle dish.
And the order is done. I do find customers coming in and they're like, oh, I've seen you on TikTok. Some people even get photos with me here and there, selfies. But I can feel the impact of social media with my business.
But growing his fan base will have to wait. Australia's ban on social media for anyone under the age of 16 is now in effect. The law, the first of its kind in the world, means potentially 1 million accounts across nearly every major social media platform. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, X, and Snapchat are being deactivated. A shocking change for so many kids. The sweeping ban was first passed last year with bipartisan support.
Resolved in the affirmative.
It requires tech companies to take what they call reasonable steps to prevent kids from creating accounts, or else face up to $32 million in fines. How the tech companies will do this has been the big unknown. The platforms may ask to verify a user's age with their bank account, a government photo ID, or by using what's called age inference technology, which estimates a user's age based on their other online activity. Tools that may also raise other privacy concerns. But supporters of the measure say the law will help protect young people from the negative developmental and mental effects of social media.
Things like unrealistic body image, for example, or exposure to bullying or predators online.
In Australia, Wayne Holsworth says his son died by suicide after a sextortion scam.
Anyone that says that this is not a good idea has not lived through my life.
As the ban went into effect, Australia's Prime Minister urging children to find other activities.
Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that's been sitting there on your shelf.
But some teens are pushing back.
I think they should be removing the harmful content instead of just keeping it there and removing us.
Two 15-year-olds are now challenging the law in the country's highest court.
As a young Australian, we as a whole will have our constitutional right taken away from us, and we will also be invisible with this ban.
Some critics also say the ban may push kids to join unregulated apps that take them to darker corners of the internet. Elon Musk, who owns X, previously slamming the law, saying it seems like a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. According to a national study commissioned by the Australian government, 96% of children ages 10 to 15 were using social media, and 7 out of 10 had been exposed to harmful content and behavior. Australia's e-safety commissioner says she believes the country's law will serve as a template for other countries, and the European Union, which despite pushback from big tech, is now eyeing a similar ban.
I've always referred to this as the first domino, which is why they push back.
For Demi, he's now counting down the days until he turns 16.
For people that are still 12 years old, 13 years old, they're going to restart their whole journey again once they turn 16. I think that's a bit of a pain point.
A live experiment that the world is watching.
Our thanks to Liz for that report. By the way, other countries could also soon follow suit. Malaysia is set to implement a similar ban starting January 1st, while Denmark and New Zealand are also discussing similar measures. Coming up, lawmakers at odds over health care in America. Up next, the vote set for tomorrow that could impact coverage for millions of people. And anxiety taking over me. It's a feeling so common, there's even a song about it. Maybe you've heard it. Now researchers say it could have to do with your immune system. Dr. Azar will join us next to explain in our weekly checkup. This is Morning News Now. We're back now with a closer look at the possible plans floating around Washington to prevent millions of Americans from having their health care costs skyrocket at the end of the year. The Senate is set to take a vote tomorrow on two competing bills, a Republican-backed plan to change the way subsidies are distributed and a Democrat-backed plan designed to keep the Obamacare subsidies going past the end of the year. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has a look at the plans and the possibility of whether any of them will pass.
Remember this? Good evening. The longest government shutdown in American history. And while the shutdown may be over for now, the crisis of rising healthcare costs is not, with healthcare subsidies for millions set to expire when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve. Republican leadership now committing to a vote on an alternative plan.
What I can tell you is, as a conference, our members, and I can't say 100%, but I think for the most part, I would argue are united behind the Crapo-Cassidy proposal.
The GOP plan would not extend the Affordable Care Act premium subsidies, but instead use the funding to create individual health savings accounts for Americans. It would also limit how the funding is used. But while this plan is the one getting the vote, it's one of several different ideas being floated by Republicans.
Are you confident that Republicans will be able to coalesce around one plan?
No, I'm not. With some Republicans worried that not extending the subsidies could be a problem.
I just don't know how Republicans would explain that to 24 million Americans whose premiums are going to double.
Democrats don't believe the GOP proposal will stabilize the premium costs from surging.
Now, if Republicans are left to their own devices, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that they fix this health care crisis.
The disagreement all over the ACA enhanced premium tax credit, which subsidizes monthly costs for plans on the Affordable Care Act marketplace, due to expire. If that does happen, that would immediately increase costs for millions of low and middle income Americans. One estimate by the Bipartisan Policy Center showing a family of four making $45,000 a year will see their premiums increase from $0 to $1,600 a year. And families making $75,000 to $110,000 a year, the increase could be double that. Those higher costs expected to have a big impact, with potentially millions ending up without any insurance. An economic and political challenge, with the Affordable Care Act now more popular than ever, according to a new Gallup poll at 57% approval. It's also known as Obamacare, one of the former president's most lasting legacies, but its association with Obama himself remains a sticking point for some.
How do you feel about the Affordable Care Act?
I'm okay with it. You know, health insurance is definitely an issue in this country.
How do you feel about Obamacare?
I'm not a fan of Obamacare.
What if I told you that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are the same thing?
I'd have to read that to believe it.
What if I said the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are the same thing?
I'd be surprised.
President Trump's proposing a different approach from the GOP while blaming the Democrats.
They want to make the insurance companies very rich, okay? I want the money to be paid to the people to go out and buy their own health care.
It's all coming to a head just weeks from a deadline as the health care of millions of Americans hangs in the balance.
All right, Ryan Nobles, thanks for that. Let's stay on your health. Time for our weekly medical checkup. This week, we're looking at whether prioritizing sleep or exercise is best, plus how insomnia and anxiety may affect your ability to fight off illness. Here to break down everything, NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Always good to see you, Dr.
Nice to
Azar.
be here with you, Emily.
So let's start with this research on sleep versus exercise, because I think everyone finds themselves in the dilemma of, okay, should I prioritize one over the other? I only have time for so much, right?
Well, I have to say the study did look at which one was better for the other, but I don't want to send a message that one is truly better than the other, because
all I need to do is sleep.
They're so important. But this was a really interesting study because they actually used people's personal tracking devices. You know how we all have this and our Whoops and all of that stuff, all the gadgets. And they found that a significant number of people are not meeting the recommended amount of sleep, which is 7 to 9 hours, or exercise, which is about 8,000 steps per day. What they did find, to say one is better than the other, is that better sleep begets more activity as opposed to more activity begetting better sleep. So if you have to prioritize one, I'm going to go with sleep.
Okay.
Doctor's orders are rest is best and stay consistent. We talk about this a lot. Even if you're an adult, you should have a bedtime routine, just like we do with our little ones, right? A consistent bedtime, limiting devices before you go to sleep, and all the things that we talk about that are under the umbrella of sleep hygiene.
Okay, sleep,
Yes.
7 to 9 hours of sleep. Doesn't that sound so nice?
It does.
Okay,
aspirational.
So let's move to a new study out that reveals anxiety and insomnia may affect how well your immune system works. So where's the link here?
Well, you know how I think it's maybe common knowledge that stress can affect your immune system,
Absolutely.
right? You go to college, you get mono. I send my kids off to college. They have everything under the sun. These researchers wanted to actually study why. And what they did was analyze a very particular group. It was women between the ages of like 18 and 23. They found, number one, I think this is a really startling statistic, 75% of them reported anxiety, and over half reported insomnia. But more importantly, what they found is that the degree of insomnia and degree of anxiety directly correlated with a decrease in the number of what are called natural killer cells, or NK cells. Think of these cells as the bodyguards of your immune system.
Sure, we need the natural killer
First line.
cells.
I mean, in the name, it's there. And so I love this because it's really kind of like very objective, scientific. Stress, anxiety, insomnia does, in fact, you're not imagining it, affect your immune system. So my doctor's orders may sound very basic, but I think it's really important to reinforce, Emily, that exercise, stress management, and a healthy diet go such a long way in terms of just not even boosting, but I guess if you want to say boosting your immune system, because everybody wants a quick fix. Like, what can I take? Can I take, all these like vitamin C and this and this? It's back to the basics. And I think this study really, really kind of demonstrates that very elegantly.
So that midnight mac and cheese, probably not the way to go.
First of all, why are you, right. And why are you up at midnight? Right. Like that's just, you're right. That's a perfect example of how like those aren't the best behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. So this last study reports that the number of pediatric inpatient units in hospitals has significantly declined over the last 2 decades. This is raising a bit of concern.
Right. And so what they're referred to as high capability units decreased by about 38% over a 20-year period. Why is this so important? This is things like, if you have a sick child, in many places in this country, the only pediatric care you can get is an emergency room or maybe the obstetric unit right when your child is born. We're talking about asthma exacerbations, needing your appendix removed, being hospitalized for pneumonia. Many places, many hospitals no longer have this capacity. Why? Kids don't get reimbursed as well as adults do. A lot of children in this country are on Medicaid. Medicaid reimbursements are not where they need to be. And frankly, the pediatric workforce is not meeting the demand. My doctor's orders are, if you are in an area where you know that you have a hospital that could not handle, let's say, an asthma exacerbation and your child has asthma, always have a plan. And yes, in this instance, you do need to utilize your emergency department for acute care, but it's just something that all parents of young ones need to keep in mind depending on where you live.
So just quickly, I think this is the question on everyone's minds. Like, is this posing an increased risk for children? What kind of risk is this posing?
Well, absolutely, right? I mean, if you have a child who requires hospital level care, whether that's monitoring or something as simple as IV intravenous antibiotics, and you may not be able to access that is something quite significant. So, definitely, again, if you're living in a geographic area where there is a dearth of that kind of provider, et cetera, really something to know about and discuss with your pediatrician to have a plan.
Okay, Dr. Azar, covering it quite literally all for us. Thank you, as always. Coming up on Morning News Now, millions of Americans heated over the cost of their heating bill.
So our bill was $830 last month. It's $1,253 this month. Tell me how.
$1,253. When we come back, we'll peel back what's behind the sticker shock. And Generation AI, the new study that shows just how many teens are turning to chatbots in their daily lives. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. As the cold weather settles in across the country, millions of Americans are turning up the thermostat. But with energy prices set to soar this winter, some people are already experiencing sticker shock. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the details.
With much of the country in winter's grip, the boiling point for many Americans is simply staying warm.
So our bill was $830 last month. It's $1,253 this month. Tell me how.
Turning to TikTok to vent.
Why is it so expensive?
The cost of heating our homes projected to rise 7.6% this winter. $54 more for families heating with gas, up $100, 10% for those heating with electricity. The average home heating bill for the entire winter, $976, rising more than double the rate of inflation. In Metro Boston, Ethel Sykes lives on a fixed income and is struggling to stay warm.
The cost has never been like this before. It's worse.
Ethel is getting heating assistance through the Action for Boston Community Development, part of the low-income energy assistance program available in most states. To keep your home warm and costs down, experts recommend changing the furnace filters to maximize warm airflow, insulating attics, crawl spaces, and pipes, sealing windows with weather stripping or plastic film insulation kits, using space heaters that have tip-over cutoff switches, and keep your thermostat at sweater warm, not T-shirt warm. The good news, the cost of heating propane and oil are down roughly $60 this winter.
You have to be warm. And you have to eat. So you improvise.
As for why heating and electricity prices are going up, Anna will say natural gas prices are up because of global demand. And the U.S. exports its own natural gas to other countries that need it to stay warm. Secondarily, AI data centers are consuming so much electricity now, that is driving up the cost of electricity. And utility companies are trying as best they can to maintain the grid, but that also costs money. Back to you.
Yeah, good point. Thanks so much, Tom. More financial news for you this morning. And as soon as next year, SpaceX could launch Wall Street's biggest IPO of all time. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has your Money Minute. Hey there, Em.
Hey, Emily, that's right. A massive move in the space race. According to multiple reports, the Elon Musk-led company is planning a public offering that could raise more than $30 billion and target a $1.5 trillion valuation. Shares of other space companies jumped yesterday after the news. SpaceX's rapid growth is being fueled by Starlink's expanding satellite internet business and development of its Starship rocket. The company is reportedly eyeing a listing as early as mid to late 2026. And Amazon is betting big on India. The company announced it will invest more than $35 billion in India's cloud and AI sectors by 2030, building on nearly $40 billion already spent. Amazon says the plan will boost AI data-driven digitization, expand exports, and create about 1 million jobs. This comes just after Microsoft announced plans to invest $17.5 billion in India's AI infrastructure, highlighting big tech's growing race to stake a claim in the region. Finally, just as Australia enforces its social media ban for those younger than 16, the Pew Research Center released a study that shows how young people are using both social media and chatbots. It shows 97% of teens go online daily, and nearly 40% say they're almost constantly online as AI chatbots become a growing part of that screen time. About 3 in 10 teens use chatbots every day, with ChatGPT leading as their top choice. Tech companies face mounting pressure and lawsuits to strengthen safety as more teens turn to AI for help, raising major questions about how these tools will shape the next generation. Now, Emily, I don't know about you, but I'm not really surprised by these numbers.
Yeah, I mean, 3 in 10, that's certainly significant. I'm always wondering, like, what is this going to do for our recall? Because anything, you just type something in and it's like immediate. Do you use chatbots at all?
I will when I'm looking for like a synonym online.
Yes.
I feel like sometimes the chatbot could be more helpful than a thesaurus. But I'm also thinking about these teens, how they're just growing up so differently than older generations.
For
and
sure.
Are their brains going to think differently? I don't know.
We are in totally new territory. Emily, thanks so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, it's one of the most recognizable songs ever. A Whitney Houston classic is trending again, all thanks to one very distinct drum beat. Wow, that's pretty incredible. Up next, more on the TikTok challenge that's giving new life to a decades-old power ballad. Stay with us. Let's end this hour with a viral challenge inspired by one of Whitney Houston's most famous songs. It's pretty hard to get it just right, so when one 7th grader in New Jersey stepped up, his school quite literally couldn't believe what happened. NBC News Now anchor Tom Yanis has the story.
This is Ethan Slater, a 7th grader from New Jersey. I wish you You can see him, drumstick raised, ready to take on the Whitney Houston Challenge. The viral trend. Challenging people to hit the song's iconic singular drum beat at the perfect time. Some celebrities even giving it a try. And it's a lot harder than it looks. But Ethan, who has Down syndrome, stepped up to the plate with his whole school behind him. Ethan hitting the beat perfectly, the entire auditorium erupting in applause, and then Ethan running right into the arms of his teacher, Jessica Vigil.
It's nice to see his growth and for everybody to embrace it with him and help him shine.
We caught up with Ethan and we asked what that moment felt like.
Thumbs up.
The thumbs up says it all.
Tom Yamas, NBC News.
All right, Ethan, we love to see it. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. Good morning. I'm Emily Ikeda in for Savannah and Joe. They're off today. Right now on Morning News Now, call to action. A hardline push for affordability from President Trump, touting his first-year economic successes and debuting this new message to voters in battleground Pennsylvania overnight.
They gave you high prices. They gave you the highest inflation in history, and we're bringing those prices down rapidly. Lower prices, bigger paychecks.
But it comes as voters signal they aren't happy with how Trump has handled the issue. While in Miami, a historic Democratic swing spells trouble for Republicans heading into next year's midterms. Staying on your money, the nation's central bank set to slash interest rates for the third straight time later today, according to experts. It's good news for potential home buyers, even folks looking for some new wheels, but could it actually cause inflation to get even worse in the coming months? Plus, it's shaping up to be yet another record-shattering year for holiday travel. AAA predicting more than 120 million Americans will hit the roads, skies, and seas in the last 2 weeks of the year. We're breaking down the best times to head out the door and how you can even save a little green heading from point A to point B this season. And the ultimate gift could soon make one lucky lotto player's Christmas bright. Powerball fever is sweeping the nation this week with an estimated jackpot of, get this, nearly $1 billion. But what are your odds of striking it big? We begin this hour with President Trump defending his economic record on the road. At a campaign-style event in battleground Pennsylvania last night, the president brushed off concerns from Democrats about affordability. This as a majority of Americans say his administration is falling short on addressing the cost of living. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has the details. Hey there, Peter. Good morning.
Emily, good morning to you. President Trump last night kicking off a campaign that aides here say will stretch through next year's midterms, insisting it'll focus heavily on the economy. But overnight, the president repeatedly veered off course to his favorite targets. And on that key issue, the topic of affordability, his speech really underscored the disconnect between the president's claims that Americans are doing great and their growing frustrations about the cost of living.
President Trump in Pennsylvania overnight touting his economic agenda in his first time on the trail in 5 months.
I have no higher priority than making America affordable again.
The president facing growing dissatisfaction with his handling of the economy, focusing on affordability, which he's called a Democratic hoax.
You know, they always have a hoax. The new word is affordability. I can't say affordability hoax because I agree the prices were too high.
Test driving a new message to voters ahead of next year's critical midterms.
You're getting lower prices, bigger paychecks.
But while wages have ticked up, so have prices, especially at grocery stores where staples like beef and orange juice are up. Last night, the president also occasionally straying from his economic message.
I haven't read practically anything off the stupid teleprompter.
And focusing on immigration, referring to highly publicized remarks from an Oval Office meeting during his first term.
Remember, I said that to the senators, and we had a meeting, and I say, why is it we only take people from whole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, but we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting.
But overnight, another sign of headwinds for the president's party, with NBC News projecting Miami has elected its first Democratic mayor in nearly 3 decades. Eileen Higgins securing a landslide victory over her Republican rival, Emilio Gonzalez, who was endorsed by President Trump in a race that was largely centered on the topic of affordability.
In that speech last night, President Trump said his chief of staff told him he needs to start hitting the campaign trail again to motivate MAGA voters, a move that may help reinvigorate his base, but one that Democrats are already welcoming, confident that if next year's midterms are viewed as a referendum on the president, it'll drive their voters to the polls as well. Emily?
All right, Peter, thanks so much. The Federal Reserve is expected to make its 3rd straight interest rate cut today to wrap up its final meeting of the year. However, some experts say it'll probably be the last cut for a while, in part because the central bank doesn't want to make inflation worse. This comes amid a weak job market with hiring levels starting to slow down and the number of layoffs going up. Our resident economy expert, Caleb Silver, is here to break down the current state of the U.S. economy. He's the chief business editor at People Inc. and editor-in-chief at Investopedia. Caleb, good morning to you. A lot of things happening where we've got the potential rate cut, the final summary, also some forecasts coming out. So what are you anticipating?
Yeah, we're probably going to get a rate cut, a quarter-point rate cut. That's sort of what's been forecast. But as you said, that might be the last one for a little while. That would bring rates down to between 3.5% and 3.25%. But if you look at the trend and what we're going to get today from the Fed, which is the summary of economic projections and the dot plot, the most boring yet the most important chart in economics right now, that tells you where Fed officials think interest rates should be a year from now, and they think interest rates should be about a percentage point lower by this point next year.
So let's look at the holiday season. Inflation is having a major impact this holiday season. A lot of shoppers have had to make tough choices between shopping, groceries, and actually Adobe putting out a new report. Buy now and pay later plans hit a one-day record on Cyber Monday, topping $1 billion for the first time. So what's your biggest concern when it comes to consumer spending this time of year?
Yeah, we're a little bit stretched, even though we're probably going to break records for spending. The National Retail Federation estimating we'll spend over $1 trillion. Part of that is just because things are more expensive. But if you look at the anecdotal evidence, a lot of holiday shopping was pushed forward into the year. You know, a lot of these retailers started holiday sales around October, a lot in November. So you've seen a lot of that pushed forward, and you see a consumer that's both not confident, consumer confidence at a multi-year low, but also not spending quite as much on the big ticket items.
I think it's interesting because then we're also hearing from big box discount retailers, in particular Walmart, Dollar General. They're having a successful holiday season. Both companies have seen sales growth, but they are also seeing an increase in high-income shoppers. What do you take away from that?
Yeah, we've heard this from Walmart, too. They're saying high-income shoppers are doing more grocery shopping at Walmart. Lower-income consumers are having smaller basket sizes when they go to checkout. So that just tells you there's a spend shift going on. Even the wealthy are value conscious. They've been spending more at the Walmarts of the world, at the Dollar Generals of the world, and that is because they're feeling a little bit less confident about the economy. Even though the economy is in decent-ish shape, we haven't gotten a lot of new and accurate government reports on the jobs report for a while. So we're kind of flying a little bit blind. The Fed's going to acknowledge that, but if they continue to cut rates, as you said, that could stoke inflation. So there's this balancing act going on. Yeah. And as we know, there's a divide in the Fed among those that want more cuts and those that think that more cuts could stoke inflation and get us right back to where we started.
Well, we will see what plays out today. Caleb Silver, thank you so much as always. We're getting a new look this morning at the arrest of murder suspect Luigi Mangione. Dramatic body cam footage from the moment police first came in contact with Mangione 1 year ago has been unsealed by a judge, and Mangione's defense team is not happy. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has been covering these pretrial hearings and joins us now with more on that video. Hey, Steph.
Hey, Emily, good morning. There has been a lot of back and forth in court about publicly releasing the body cam video of Mangione's arrest. The judge initially ordering it sealed, but then in this surprise move, he unsealed this 2-minute clip that until now has only been shown in court.
This morning, compelling new video of the moment Luigi Mangione was confronted by police in a Pennsylvania McDonald's following a nationwide manhunt. A judge making the body cam footage public for the first time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
The restaurant's manager called 911 after customers raised the alarm.
What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Rosario. Rosario? Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you drive younger? Yes, sir. Thanks.
Mangione then pulls out his wallet, calmly handing the officer a fake driver's license.
Probably looked like someone.
One responding officer stepping away to call in the license number before learning the New Jersey ID was a fake.
26, 27, 29.
The encounter bringing an end to a nearly 5-day search for Mangione, the suspect accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. In court Tuesday, a responding officer, Stephen Fox, testifying he escorted the Ivy League grad to his arraignment exactly 1 year ago. And Mangione reacted to the crowd in the courtroom, saying, "All these people are here for a mass murderer. Wild." The focus of Tuesday's hearing, once again, the authorities' search of Mangione's backpack. The defense wants everything found in that backpack, including a gun and a critical notebook, excluded from the upcoming trial, arguing Mangione was illegally searched by police without a warrant, violating his constitutional rights. Officer Fox telling the court, "I was afraid that there was an item in that bag that could harm human life." Prosecutors say that concern for safety justified a warrantless search.
Mangione's attorneys filed a letter with the court saying the release of the body cam footage presents a, quote, substantial probability that Mangione's right to a fair trial could be jeopardized, arguing it could prejudice potential jurors. There's no court today, Emily, and prosecutors expect the hearing to wrap next week.
And Steph, we know you'll be closely following it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And now to that Arctic blast that's continuing to bring severe weather conditions to much of the country. Blizzard warnings are in effect for the central Appalachians. People there could see between 4 and 8 inches of snow and wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour. And a Clipper storm pushing across the Midwest will keep temperatures colder than normal there for the next few days. While some of you try to keep warm, let's get a check on your morning News Now forecast with meteorologist Angie Lastman. Angie, you know I'm so happy to be in studio. Normally I'm out there covering the cold.
Yeah, you definitely didn't get the short end of the stick this morning, Emily. You and so many people trying to stay warm, but also trying to stay dry if you live in the Pacific Northwest. That's where we've seen that atmospheric river kind of ramp up, and we are concerned about the continual flooding concerns throughout the next couple of days. And notice that we're quite active this morning, stretching across this region. We've got some snow falling. We've got flood alerts, specifically flood watches up across these regions, including parts of Washington that have Seattle in it. So we're going to watch for that to last here at least throughout the rest of the day today. It'll be heavy rain at that, and we could see potentially historic flooding on area waterways. So we'll watch for this kind of unsettled pattern to last at least through today into tomorrow. You can see minor improvements, but still some additional snowfall across parts of the northern Rockies and some of those lighter showers across parts of Washington and Oregon. So a bit of an improvement. But between now and then, we're looking at, as I mentioned, that flooding concern. And we've got, wherever you see that brighter pink, major flooding already occurring. These are, of course, the river flooding, but we've got additional rainfall on the way. And for parts of the Cascades and Olympics, we could see upwards of 4, even higher than 6, maybe 8 inches in some locations. So you see why the concern is there for flooding. When you talk about the snowfall across this region, up to 2 feet, that's going to be in some of the highest peaks, and that'll go through at least the end of the work week. So folks, there, heads up for you. Meanwhile, we've got 18 million people across the country under these winter alerts, and specifically across the Northeast and Great Lakes and Appalachians as this one quick batch of snow and rain starts to move through. You can see already dealing with some of that snow across this region and the additional rain on the warmer side of this system. I think through the day today, it's going to be the periods of cold rain for the I-95 corridor. So unfortunately, if you're hoping for some snowfall in places like New York City, you're not going to get it, but you will have plenty of snow up towards parts of the interior areas of the Northeast and New England. That's where it'll be slick. We'll see that lasting snowfall through the day today and potentially in some spots downwind of the lake through tomorrow. Then we watch this next batch of kind of snow and wintry mix slide through the Midwest as we get through your Thursday. Temperature-wise, yes, we are chilly in a lot of spots, but check out these temperatures on the western half of the country. We've seen a bit of a warm-up. We've got upper 50s in Denver. That's 14 degrees above where we should be. We're into the 60s for Boise, 70s for LA. We've got 72 in Houston. A little chillier as we look to the eastern half of the country, especially as we get to tomorrow. We'll see the temperature kind of moderate out for the west even into tomorrow, but that'll be temporary. Notice what happens by the time we get into Friday. We get this next kind of blast of Arctic air working in. And let's specifically look at Minneapolis, because we go from the teens on Friday, which doesn't feel great to me, if I'm honest, but we dip down to single-digit actual temperatures by Saturday and Sunday. The feels like temperatures, of course, will be worse than that. We've got 10 for the high in Chicago on Sunday. And even as far east as Pittsburgh, we're into the 20s, Emily. We're going to see those 30s kind of hang on tight as we round out our weekend in New York. But you get the picture. The whole lot of cold air in place will start to moderate out beyond that, but some really chilly conditions on the way.
You know what I've just decided, Ange, that I think I'm going to swap out the 30s here for the 77 in LA.
Oh,
yeah. Can you just arrange that?
You know what? I get a lot of requests, but that is a first for that one. I will put my request in with Mother Nature, see what I can do.
All right, Angie Lassman, thank you so much.
You got it.
Christmas Eve is just 2 weeks from today, and AAA is now predicting a record number of Americans, more than 122 million, will be hitting the roads, skies, rails, and even the high seas this holiday season. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is at Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport and joins us now with the latest. Hey, Brian, so what do we need to know if we haven't nailed down our holiday travel plans? How are most of us getting to our destinations this year?
Emily, it's good to see you. Most people will be traveling by car. 109 million people, according to AAA, expected to hit the roads. Understandably so, because gas prices are cheaper this year compared to last year. The national average right now below $3 a gallon. That is certainly welcome news for a lot of people that will be driving to their Christmas destinations. Now, I should also point out that at airports like this one, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, there is an expected rush going to the TSA lines with over 8 million. You can see on the board ahead of you, expected to hit the skies. That is the first time, I should point out, that AAA expects more than 8 million people to fly. And by the way, flight prices are more expensive. Those tickets up 7% compared to last year. And if you haven't booked by now, Emily, as you know, those last-minute bookings get even more expensive. So if you haven't booked by now, I'll probably see you on the roads.
Listen, Brian, that is not what I wanted to hear. I'm always open to some last-minute holiday travel. But for those of us who are driving, and typically I do drive to the Philly area for Christmas time, when is the best time to go?
Yeah, well, look, when it comes to driving, the worst times you're going to want to mark your calendar on this would be Saturday and Sunday right before Christmas. Those are going to be the most busy days, as is the day after Christmas, which falls on a Friday. Friday, December 26th, also not a great day to travel. Unfortunately, the best day to travel, according to AAA, is going to be on Christmas Day itself. So if you can afford to excuse yourself from Christmas dinner perhaps a little bit early, it will pay off in the form of less traffic. So if you are going down to the Philly area, I would probably suggest maybe Thursday night. If you want to try to cheat it on Friday morning, feel free to do so.
Look, I can't miss dessert, though. I can't cut out too early to miss Christmas Day dessert. But, you know, as I mentioned, I'm always open to last-minute travel. Where are the most popular holiday destinations this year? Where are you going?
Well, I mean, certainly Philly is going to be a popular destination. Maybe I'll make my way down to Philly as well. But look, when it comes to the actual hot destinations, according to the statistics, the most traveled domestic routes expected this holiday season are going to be to those warmer weather locations like Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, all in Florida. Obviously, you just heard Angie Lassman's weather forecast there. It's because it's so cold, specifically on the eastern part of this country, which also explains why the most popular out-of-country destinations are also going to be places on the beach, like, for example, Cancun and Cozumel, Mexico, as well as Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Those all sound pretty good to me, although I don't really mind going down to Philly as well.
But you know, Brian, if you heard, I did put my official request in with Angie to switch the temperatures. I want to swap our 30s out here in the east for LA's 77 degrees.
I'll +1 that, Emily.
All right, Brian Chung, thank you so much. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including some shocking new data on the rise of self-checkout thefts across the country. Just how many shifty shoppers admit to using that 5-finger discount while at the counter. But first, after the break, Logged Out, the first of its kind blackout targeting millions of social media accounts in Australia. And officials say it's all about mental health. We'll dig into that next. Welcome back. Millions of kids in Australia are dealing with a newly imposed social media blackout. The ban applies to children under the age of 16 and came into effect today. It's the first of its kind in the world. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now with more on this. Keir, good morning. This is fascinating.
That's right, Emily. It really is. Good morning. If your child is constantly on one of these, this new social media teen ban is being closely watched by parents around the world and by lawmakers in the US. Australia's Prime Minister called it a proud day, while some Australian teens are already finding ways around the ban.
This morning, 1 million social media accounts have been deactivated across Australia.
Hi there, students. It's the Prime Minister here. If you're under 16, you're no longer allowed to have a social media account.
It's the world's first nationwide ban, driven by fears about the impact on children's mental health. Studies have shown the effects of social media on kids, increased risk of depression or even self-harm, creating body image issues, addiction, and even impacting brain development.
We had the families asking for help, devastated families.
Among the 10 apps now restricted in Australia, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, and others. The platform's now requesting documents to prove a user's date of birth, or even using AI to scan faces and estimate a person's age. Australian officials say the move could create a domino effect, with other countries following suit. Last night at a Finding Common Ground town hall with Utah Governor Spencer Cox and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Cox telling Savannah he holds social media companies themselves responsible.
They're profiting off of destroying our kids and destroying our country. And they give all of our kids and grandkids anxiety and depression.
But already, Australia is seeing a backlash to the ban. 15-year-old Noah Jones is taking legal action.
We as a whole will have our constitutional right taken away from us, and we will also be invisible with this ban.
Indy Cornwell is a 14-year-old skateboarder.
I think it's great in a way that it will keep out a lot of the kids from getting cyberbullied and getting addicted, but also for people like me, I need it for my sponsors and also coaching.
And while many parents support the ban,
I think it's fantastic.
Inevitably, teens will try to bend the rules.
Children are clever.
This morning, Australia's Prime Minister finding out for himself with messages from teens on TikTok saying they got past it.
And Emily, US lawmakers are watching. From July next year, Nebraska will require social media platforms to verify users' ages. Meanwhile, the big social media companies, while of course obeying the law, say outright bans don't work, that they may drive teens to less safe apps, and that they have been making their accounts safe spaces. Emily?
It'll be interesting to see if there's any kind of domino effect from this. Keir, thank you so much. Staying overseas in Brazil, authorities are still searching for 8 pieces of art by Matisse that were stolen in broad daylight. NBC News International correspondent Raph Sanchez brings us the details, including surprising new video of the casual escape.
A dramatic heist at the speed of a Sunday stroll. Video capturing the moment Brazilian authorities say 2 men calmly walked out of a library in Sao Paulo, carrying more than a dozen stolen artworks, 8 of them by French master Henri Matisse. They're later highlighted in this footage released by city officials, a few blocks away after changing clothes, carrying the prints out of a car and leaving them on the street next to a pile of garbage, before coming back to pick them up. Police say they've now arrested one of the men, but so far they haven't recovered the stolen works. We spoke to Sao Paulo's culture secretary.
How does it feel to see this robbery happening in broad daylight?
I felt like the French felt when the Louvre Museum was robbed in broad daylight, he says. It's been nearly 2 months since the brazen heist at the Louvre Museum in Paris. Thieves making off with $100 million worth of France's crown jewels. French police have made several arrests, but so far, no sign of the stolen treasures. And outcome detectives in Brazil are racing to avoid.
And one of the big concerns in all of these stolen art cases is that the items could be taken outside of the country. City officials in Sao Paulo tell us that they have alerted not only the national police and the border police in Brazil, but also Interpol. So at this point, you have authorities in Latin America, but also around the world on high alert, looking out for these stolen pieces of art.
All right, Ralph Sanchez, thank you for that. Coming up, the worrying rise of one workplace trend that has corporate America putting resources for women on the back burner. We'll dig into some eye-opening new data and what it all means for the future of diversity on the job. That's next on Morning News Now. And we're back with a rare bipartisan effort to counter extremism here in the U.S. Two governors from opposite sides of the aisle teamed up for a wide-ranging interview with NBC News as part of our Finding Common Ground series. Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania and Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah spoke to Today co-anchor Savannah Guthrie about how political violence has rocked their states and their personal lives. Here's that conversation.
At Washington's storied National Cathedral, two governors from opposing parties meeting with a common cause.
We sorely need in this country to try and lift everyone up and get us out of the darkness of political violence.
That violence has come home to both. Shapiro and his family were asleep in their beds on Passover when a man tried to burn down the governor's residence.
That has led me to feel extraordinary guilt as a dad, that doing this job that I love, that I so believe in, put my kids' lives at risk.
And in Utah, activist Charlie Kirk was murdered by an assassin's bullet in broad daylight.
The first call I got was from this guy. He told me to speak with moral clarity and to speak from the heart.
Now, both are sounding the alarm on the threat of political divisiveness.
It does feel like all of the signs are blinking red in terms of the danger to our democracy and the danger to our sense of unity. And frankly, they're one and the same.
We're passing all the checkpoints towards, ultimately failed states and things like civil war. One of the things that Charlie said that I so believe is, he says, when we stop talking, that's when we start shooting.
As the country searches for a path toward unity, Shapiro says it starts at the top, calling out President Trump.
You are looked to for that moral clarity. And we have a president of the United States right now that fails that test.
But also speaking out against those in his own party, who he said celebrated events like Kirk's shooting and the attempted assassination of President Trump.
That is not okay. Violence is never the answer, even if it's coming from your political side or someone who agrees with you.
Both governors taking on social media's impact on our culture.
People are being put into these silos, and how much do you lay at the feet of these companies?
These are the opioid companies of the early 2000s. There's no difference.
Ultimately, both men of different faiths talked about the need for a return to real connection among Americans.
The answers to so much of the darkness that we see in America today is the light that ordinary Americans bring each day, oftentimes grounded in faith and in our shared humanity.
We can't make politics our religion. If we're going to make it another 250 years, we desperately need you tonight to lay down your swords and to treat each other with dignity and respect again.
A really fascinating conversation. Our thanks to Savannah Guthrie for that report. Okay, let's take a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with more on that big win for the Democrats in Miami. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with more. Hey, Julie.
Hey, good to see you again, Emily. There's a lot of news happening outside of Washington today, so let's begin in Miami, where it was another big election night win for Democrats. Eileen Higgins beat her Republican opponent, Emilio Gonzalez, with nearly 60% of the vote. Gonzalez had the backing of President Trump and other GOP heavyweights, from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to Texas Senator Ted Cruz. With her victory last night, Higgins is the first woman ever chosen to be Miami's mayor and the first Democrat and non-Hispanic person elected to the position in decades. Now to New York, where Bruce Blakeman, a Republican county official in Long Island, entered the New York governor's race yesterday. He launched his campaign in a video posted to social media, and his entrance means he'll face off first against Congresswoman Elise Stefanik in the GOP primary. Here's the thing, though. Stefanik has hoped to secure President Trump's endorsement as she tries to take on Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul next year. But when Blakeman jumped in this week, Trump praised both of his allies equally. And finally to Missouri, where a group backed by Democrats is working hard to repeal the state's new congressional map drawn by Republicans. The group is called People Not Politicians, and they submitted more than 300,000 signatures for a petition that seeks to block the new district lines from going into effect before the midterm elections next year. The group's goal is to force a public vote, but that still has to be approved by Missouri's GOP Secretary of State. This is just the latest redistricting fight across the country. We've been talking about this for months, pushed by President Trump, as both Republicans and Democrats now try to redraw maps to give their party the edge in D.C. And that is a look at what is making news in politics this morning. Emily?
All right, Julie, thank you so much. A major new study into women and corporate America suggests some organizations are scaling back their programs and resources for women in the workplace. According to the Women in the Workplace report from nonprofit Lean In and global consulting firm McKinsey, only 54% of companies say women's career advancement is a high priority. That number is even lower for women of color. This would appear to mark a sharp drop from just 4 years ago, when 87% of companies claimed gender diversity was a high priority. I'm joined now by the two co-authors of this report, CEO and co-founder of Lean In, Rachel Thomas, and senior partner at McKinsey, Alexis Krivkovich. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being here with me. Rachel, I want to start with you. What other evidence did you uncover suggesting that companies are doing less to help women advance in their careers? And I think a lot of people are wondering the big question, why? Do we know why?
Listen, there's huge evidence that companies are at risk of backsliding on women. And it's not just about commitment, although you laid that out beautifully. It's also how companies are taking action. So we know they are rolling back policies and programs that are particularly beneficial to women, like flexible work and remote work, which disproportionately benefits women because they still work a double shift, like access to formal sponsorship programs in a world where women continue to get less sponsorship. That really matters. And career development programs tailored specifically for women. So addressing the specific barriers and challenges that women experience. So taken all together with that lower commitment. And by the way, 20% of companies say they're not prioritizing women's advancement. And as you said, that's even worse for women of color. So taken all together, there are clear signs that companies are starting to overlook women. And our concern is we're at the end of 10 years of hard-earned progress when it comes to women's representation and women's representation and leadership in particular. So if companies don't take action, we're at risk of rolling back all of that progress.
Rachel, another thing that stood out to me, the report also reveals that more women are less interested in promotions compared to their male counterparts. Obviously, there's a lot of nuances with this, but broadly, why do you think that is?
There's a lot going on in our culture right now. Of course, this is outside the report itself, but women are reading headlines and seeing on social media messages that undermine women's leadership, signal I think there's less investment and less commitment to lifting women up. And they're starting to feel that in their workplace as well. The other thing that we know is that the gap in ambition falls entirely away when women get the same career supports as men do. So when women have a sponsor, when they're put up for promotions equally, when they're given stretch assignments, leadership training, when their managers advocate for them and open up doors for them, that ambition gap falls away. So behind that ambition gap is really a support gap that companies need to address.
And Alexis, your report also finds that half of all employees worry that one of their personal characteristics like race, age, gender, or sexual orientation may limit their opportunity to advance. This comes as high-profile companies are rolling back DEI programs. We've covered it closely amid pressure from the Trump administration. So what else did you find in this area?
Well, this is incredibly important because we have a really diverse workforce, and that's a real benefit and strength. in this country. And so we need every employee to feel like when they show up, they can show up at their absolute best. And what's interesting when you look in the data is that companies that have inclusive environments, so environments where everybody does feel like who they are can be the authentic version that they bring, those companies have employees who are happier, who are more productive, who describe lower rates of burnout, more loyalty to their organization, and the ability to bring their all. And so really focusing on creating a culture that makes everyone feel welcome allows all of the diverse talent to really thrive. And companies that don't get that right, what they start to see over time is attrition levels that are higher. They start to see disengagement from the workforce, and it compounds into an environment where you lose out on the best talent you could have.
Yeah, to that point on the sense of feeling welcome, Rachel, let's go back to you. How do organizations need to change to help women feel more supported at work? Are there action steps here?
We have so much that companies can do in the report, so I hope everybody reads it. But one of the things we really want organizations to do is track outcomes. Who's getting sponsorship? And those people that get sponsors, are they getting promotions? Who's getting access to leadership training? Is that leading to stretch opportunities or other opportunities for advancement? Who is getting encouraged and trained to use AI, which is going to have huge implications over the next 5 years? So we want organizations to look across all the opportunities, all the supports that lead to career advancement, and make sure women are getting them equally, and make sure everyone is getting them equally. Because as Alexis said, this is all ultimately about tapping in to the full talent of the population, and companies that do that will outperform and they will win the war for talent.
And Alexis, just quickly before you go, I think a lot of people will look at this and maybe find it disheartening, this report. So how do you still remain hopeful?
It's we ask ourselves that every day. Look, what we have seen over a decade is real progress. We've gone from less than 1 in 6 women in the C-suite to 1 in 3. That was hard earned, and we still see that sustained. And so I think for us, the view is if 25 was the year that companies took a step back, 26 is the year to really recommit. And the workforce is there and ready. The talent pool is there and ready. And particularly with all of the change happening with AI and everything else in the market, this is a moment where companies who get this right are really going to be out ahead.
All right, Rachel and Alexis, thanks so much for joining me this morning. Coming up, check yourself. They're speedy to some, a hassle to others. But now new numbers are revealing just how many Americans admit to stealing from those controversial self-checkout counters. And it's a lot more than you might think. That's coming up. Stay with us. We're back this morning with new research into those self-checkout machines in stores, and it contains a shocking statistic. More than a quarter of shoppers admit they've stolen something while using them. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch joins us now with a closer look at what people are taking. Jesse, more than a quarter? Really?
But not you and not me, right, Em? Never. So here's what we're looking at. You go to the store, you pick up a couple items, and then increasingly when we head over to checkout, there's no one here to greet us. It's all on you to scan and pay and leave on your own. But it turns out quite a few of us are scanning some, but not everything, and still walking out the door.
When shoppers approach self-checkout, some see speed, while others brace for headache.
Self-checkout is for scanning and go.
And this morning, those unmanned kiosks are increasingly being used for something more nefarious. According to a new Lending Tree survey, 27% of self-checkout users have purposefully taken an item without scanning. That's a 12-point spike in 2 years, with more than a third of both millennial and Gen Z shoppers guilty of stealing.
Hey, I could get in trouble.
Shoplifting is far from new, but in years past, you'd have to get by a cashier.
It looks like you gained some weight since you came in. Don't sweat it, sweetie. I won't tell.
Now, many shoppers barely interact with store employees, helping merchandise slip through the cracks which hurts retailers' bottom line.
They're not losing that total shopping cart. They might lose 1 or 2 items in that mix, but they're also pleasing other customers that are coming through that cycle.
As a result, Christopher Hamlin from the Retail Industry Leaders Association says self-checkout is still a net positive.
Are businesses adding self-checkout because it saves them money or because that's what customers want?
I would say it's a 50-50. It is consumer driven. Consumers like that. They like the fact that it's an easier and a faster process for them. And then on the flip side, the retailer is not having 6 or 7 people running the front end. They have 1 or 2.
But you better know what you're doing.
People that move with no sense of urgency or who are constantly confused, get out of the self-checkout line, because this is for the pros.
And increasingly, Hamlin says, technology can help those employees crack down on shoplifting.
It's not if you're going to get caught, it's when you're going to get caught. The technology allows for these individuals to be able to investigate and determine that those losses have actually happened a lot faster.
Even with cameras increasingly prevalent in public, why would people try to steal this way? Affordability. Unaffordable essentials and price increases tied to tariffs are driving forces, according to LendingTree, which found people who think they'll steal again say they're most likely to take essentials like food, water, and healthcare products. LendingTree's survey also found that 36% of self-checkout shoppers admit they've accidentally left with an unscanned item. And almost 2/3 of those people say they kept that unscanned item. And then there are some people with this perspective.
We really need to cancel self-checkout culture. We need to bring back customer service, and it needed to happen yesterday.
We reached out to multiple retailers about this story. Target tells us that last year, when they cut down the number of items people can bring to self-checkout, they actually noticed a drop-off in thefts. But the company tells us they were not trying to stop shoplifting when they made that plan. So I guess an added benefit there. And I think the bottom line here, Em, is that at the end of the day, the customer may not always be right. And if you don't pay for this, candy in the morning is that much more of a guilty pleasure. Please take it back before I throw another pun in there.
Listen, can you pick me up that Kit Kat, though? I will take that Kit Kat, but pay for it, Jesse.
We'll get a couple more options here for you, too. But I'm going to pay for them.
All right, beautiful. Jesse Kirsch, thank you so much, as always. Let's get a closer look at some more financial headlines. And it looks like OpenAI is adding another big name in tech to its roster. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorish has your Money Minute. Hey, Em, what's got the tech world talking this morning?
Hey, Emily, it's a major move here coming from OpenAI as the race for AI dominance heats up. The company has hired Slack CEO Denise Dresser as its new chief revenue officer, a pivotal role as OpenAI pushes to expand business use of its AI tools. Dresser became Slack CEO in 2023 after the communications platform was acquired by Salesforce, where she spent years as an executive. She'll be stepping into this new role at OpenAI as the startup faces growing competition and is under pressure to grow fast, with plans to spend $1.4 trillion on infrastructure to support AI. Speaking of AI, a new report is raising fresh questions about how AI may be shaping the prices you pay at the grocery store. According to the study released by Groundwork Collaborative, Consumer Reports, and More Perfect Union, the delivery app Instacart uses AI pricing tools that have caused many shoppers to pay higher or lower prices for identical products from the same store. Researchers say nearly 75% of the products tested were listed at different prices. Instacart tells NBC News, quote, retail partners control their prices on Instacart, and we work closely with them to align online and in-store pricing whenever possible. The company also says pricing is displayed on the Instacart storefront, so customers know when prices differ from in-store and can also compare prices across retailers before checking out. Finally, a new version of one of America's favorite cookies is coming in the new year. Oreo Zero Sugar and Oreo Double Stuffed Zero Sugar will be hitting U.S. shelves in January for the first time. They're already sold in Europe and China. Mondelez says it took 4 years to develop the no-sugar Oreos to make sure they're still tasting like the originals. A serving of regular Oreos has 13 grams of added sugars, or 26% of the daily recommended amount, while these new ones here, they'll contain 0 added sugars, I guess, just in time for New Year's resolutions.
Look,
Emily.
we're really awakening my sweet tooth this morning. Jesse's getting me Kit Kats, you're getting me Oreos, so thank you.
Oreos are better, though, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Emily. Okay, this morning we're getting an in-depth look at the AI data centers that are powering the global economy, including the online holiday shopping season. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello got rare access inside what experts call AI Alley, the biggest concentration of data centers anywhere in the world in Northern Virginia. Tom, good morning.
Hey there. So these data centers power the cloud, from emails to social media to online shopping, banking, chatting. Everything we do and rely on every day goes through an AI data center. And ground zero for all of that activity sits on the East Coast, not far from Washington, D.C. From the air, you might miss it. A landscape of gray, nondescript buildings near Washington's Dulles Airport. But this is AI Alley. 2/3 of the world's internet traffic flows through Loudoun County, Virginia. 2/3. If you surf online, you've surely surfed right through here.
So we're inside the Digital Realty Innovation Lab.
Digital Realty houses the servers and the processors that power the internet and AI. Andy Power, yes, that's his real name, is the CEO. We are literally standing in the power center for the cloud right now.
That's right. So anything you did this morning, looking on your device, pulling up an app, in your office, on your keyboards, when you're streaming the Today Show this evening, if you missed it in the morning, probably came through a Digital Realty data center.
Behind these flashing lights and cables sit the world's biggest tech companies: Apple, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, ChatGPT, Meta, IBM, Cisco, big banks, and healthcare. The list is endless. What's in these servers? Your Google searches and podcasts, your photos, your social media feeds, your bank and medical records, in essence, your entire digital life. Like the internet, the company footprint is massive. More than 1 million square feet in one building alone, the size of 2 aircraft carriers. Digital Realty operates 300 data centers worldwide. Getting an inside glimpse is rare. This looks and feels so nondescript, but there's a purpose, a reason for that, right? It's highly secure.
Highly secure facilities. We do try to blend into the community.
Hundreds of data buildings have brought huge tax revenue to the county, driving down property taxes. But many neighboring homeowners say, not in my backyard.
I don't want to be breathing air from generators. I don't want it to be having polluted water or any of those things.
Locals fear their electricity bills will jump as energy companies struggle to meet the AI demand, though Digital Realty says it will be on 90% green power by year's end. But make no mistake, the AI revolution is about to explode. So this is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning.
So there's a lot of concern about too much data center building in this country, and that could be a lesson for other areas of the country that see these data centers as a great revenue stream for their communities, but not necessarily in their backyards. Back to you.
Tom, thanks for breaking that down. Coming up, you could be in for a very special Christmas gift this season. That is if Lady Luck comes your way. When Morning News Now returns, it's that time of year again. Powerball fever is sweeping the nation with a jackpot worth nearly $1 billion with the B dollars. But what are your odds of hitting it big? We'll break it all down next. Finally this hour, Christmas could come early if you play the Powerball. Tonight's massive jackpot is sitting at an estimated, $930 million. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is grabbing his tickets. Oh, and one for me too, please, at a store in Skokie, Illinois, just north of Chicago, and joins us now with more. Hey, Shaq, how's it been this morning?
Well, you have a lot of people, Emily, feeling pretty lucky this morning. I'll tell you, the store, it opened up about 2 hours ago, and we've been seeing people come in and out, people asking Sue, the cashier back there, for a ticket for the big one. And the big one is very clear. We're talking about the Powerball. That jackpot, as you mentioned, is standing at $930 million. That's just short of $1 billion, which is the mark that Sue told me is when you have people really come in and surge and buy those tickets. Added to that is the fact that we're in that holiday season right now. So people are looking for gifts. People are looking for stocking stuffers. And she said when you have those big jackpots around the holidays, that's when you see an even bigger surge. And we've definitely been seeing that here this morning, Emily.
Okay, so we're talking about $930 million. That is a lot of money. But let's say, when I win and I go for the lump sum, how much do I get to take home then?
not to correct you, but when I win, I will be taking out in cash the $430 or so million option. You can, of course, decide to get small payments over the course of 30 years. And, you know, one factor here is it depends on what state you're buying this lottery ticket. If you were buying in a state where you can remain anonymous, well, that is probably your best bet, because you win, you go quietly away, you change that phone number, no one ever hears from you again. But there are more states in the United States where you at least have to give your name. Some require, you know, that press conference that we sometimes see. So that factors in to at least how lucky someone will feel after they win.
And you know, experts always say, try to remain anonymous if you have the option. But okay, let's get to the bad news.
You will not see me at all.
Yeah. Talk to me about the odds. When was the last time someone actually won?
I know, this is like a fantasy. Some describe it as a delusion. So when you talk about the Powerball, your odds are 1 in 292 million. They're actually a little bit worse than that. We kind of compared it to a couple of different things. If you look at your odds for getting struck by lightning, they're better than winning the Powerball. Your odds of, let's say, getting eaten by a shark, or let's just say the worst happening with a shark, those odds are better than getting winning that Powerball jackpot. And I'll end it at least with a positive one. We know the Olympics are coming up in Milan in February. You have a better chance of winning a medal at the Olympics than you do winning that Powerball jackpot. But the energy here is still, hey, you never know. Someone has to win. Sue just said that to one of the customers. So still come in and play. It might just be you. Just remember to share with the correspondent who told you about it.
Absolutely. You got to be in it to win it. Shaq, thank you so much for joining us. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.